Happy Monday, Bio. Welcome back. Couple housekeeping things as we kick off this new week. Hopefully by now you have started or wrapped up your crayfish dissection. I say that because this will be the last video lesson of slides for Module 12. So we are reaching the end of this module already. And so we will be wrapping up that material and of course eventually moving on to the next set of material. So you do want to be finalizing anything that you need to be turning in for Module 12 at this point. Additionally, I will touch upon this at the very end of the video, but on Wednesday you will have a different type of video lesson. I will be sending you a link for a video along with some questions to go with that. So just be on the lookout for that. And again, I'll mention that real quick at the end so you don't forget. But today we are going to wrap up Module 12 slides talking about the last class among phylum Arthropoda, which is class Insecta. And I know you know what's in here. This is the insects. And of course there's a wide variety of them, and it would be impossible for us to cover all of them. There's so many different types, but we are going to go over some of the defining characteristics and basic anatomical points that go along with insects. Okay? And so let's get started. So this is the largest class in creation. Roughly 3/4 of the species in kingdom Animalia fall under class Insecta. So this is a huge, huge class, and rightfully so, because we know there is such diversity in all the different insects that we've probably ever encountered in our life. And so all members of class Insecta share the following characteristics. They have 3 pairs of walking, or in some cases jumping, legs. So 3 pairs of legs. They usually have wings at some stage of their life. Maybe not their whole life, but at some point they have wings. They have 1 pair of antennae, and they are composed of 3 segments: a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. And although these characteristics are common to all insects, there is a great deal of variability within this huge class, as there always is. We've said it over and over again in biology. These are a lot of rules, but there's always exceptions to them. There's always certain differences amongst the creatures we've studied or the different properties and things that we've studied. So keeping that in mind. All right, and so insect legs, they typically are jointed and are connected to the thorax for walking. Again, that's just typically, but more often than not, most insects, their legs are jointed and connected to the thorax. Insects' wings come in 4 different types, all right? And so you are responsible for understanding the difference between the 4 basic types of wings. The first is the membranous wing. This is a very thin, transparent, with detailed network of visible veins. So if you've ever looked at a fly up close and seen that very detailed, lined, thin wing, this is a membranous wing, okay? Then we have scaled wings, which are composed of delicate scales that are not quite as transparent. And so think of butterflies and moths. They may not look like they have scales, but those are considered scale wings, and they're not as translucent and see-through like you would expect a fly wing to look like. Then there are leather-like wings, which appear as part of the exoskeleton, and they're really, really tough, which is why we call them leather-like wings. So these you find on things like grasshoppers. And then you have horny wings, which are a membranous wing, but that's covered and protected and very, very tough. So think of beetles or ladybugs when you look at their wings. Okay. And so again, like the spider, you will not be required to label all of these features on these 2 insects here. Or, well, it's 1 insect, but we're looking at a blown up version. But just some things to note. See, there's 3 segments of the body: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. This grasshopper has a wing, has a set of jumping legs and a set of walking legs, antenna, and a compound eye, as well as many other internal features that we've talked about amongst some of the other organisms of phylum Arthropoda. All right. And so, interestingly, insects do not have a respiratory system, yet they get plenty of oxygen. So they have a set of elaborate interconnected series of tubes that we call tracheas. So similar to we have our own trach, but they have this long series of interconnected tubes, and they connect to the outside of their bodies through the small holes called spiracles. And so that is how they obtain their oxygen. Insects also have Malpighian tubules, which clean waste product that are deposited into their intestines and eliminated out of the anus. So this is part of their digestive system. In class Insecta, we find both simple and compound eyes. So depending on which insect we're looking at, you may see one or the other. They also often contain what are called tactile hairs, which provide a sense of touch and taste and smell. And so some of them, the insects have really tough bodies, and therefore they need these tactile hairs to kind of give them a sense of their surroundings. So they use that mostly for sensory. And a few small subsection basically of class Insecta have the ability to hear as well, an example being the grasshopper, but not all insects have the capability of hearing. All right, and so in looking at insect reproduction, there are a couple stages that we have to focus on. The first is the egg stage. And so females' eggs are fertilized at this stage by male sperm in the seminal receptacles. And after that, we move on to the larva stage in insect reproduction, which is most eggs get hatched in this stage, and they tend to resemble a segmented worm. And at this point, it will eat and molt several times while in this phase before moving on to the pupa stage, which is when it forms a case around itself. And at this point, the organs get rearranged, they get reshaped, and the body structures are dismantled and reformed so that by the time it gets to the last stage, which is the adult stage, the insect has all of its features and organs that it should and is recognizable to us as the insect that it is. And so you guys know this entire process probably all the way down from like first grade as metamorphosis. All right, so everything we just discussed, those steps are part of the metamorphosis of an insect, and there are two types. There's both incomplete and complete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis is when the insect development consists of 4 stages, as we just discussed: the egg, the larva, the pupa, and the adult stage. Incomplete metamorphosis, on the other hand, is an insect development consisting of only 3 stages: the egg, the nymph, and the adult stage. And so we're just going to dive into that real quick a little bit more. So in this case, an incomplete insect reproduction or incomplete metamorphosis, the insect hatches from the egg stage into the nymph stage, which is basically just a miniature version of the adult form, but it doesn't have quite adequate proportions at that point, so it often lacks wings and the reproductive organs. Once it molts several times, though, and develops wings and organs, then we can say that it has reached the adult stage. So that is the 2 types of metamorphosis: incomplete and complete. So 4 and 3. Please make sure that you know the difference between the 2 and what the 4 or the 3 stages are for a future assessment. All right. And so here we go. This is just a picture from your book, just giving you some examples of different insects that you may encounter. You're probably familiar with all of these, and you've probably witnessed, the different butterflies or moths or something in a cocoon, or some type of maybe even experiment when you were younger. I know I did some stuff like that when I was in science in like elementary school. So, or maybe you visited the butterfly gardens before, which are in Westford. Pretty cool. Either way, we are going to wrap up this module with a couple last fact check questions before I explain further a little bit about your assignment on Wednesday. All right, so fact check. Number 1, an insect's outer wings appear very tough. Most likely, which type of wings are they? So if they're super duper tough, they are most likely going to be the horny wings, which are the toughest of the 4 types of wings that we've talked about. Number 2, you can suffocate an insect by wrapping up its body except for its head in plastic wrap. Why? If the mouth is exposed to air, does the insect still suffocate? The answer is that if you've done that, if you've wrapped it in plastic wrap, even though you've left the mouth exposed to air, it does not have a respiratory system. Remember that they have the spiracles coming out of their body, those little holes lined that the trachea line up to, And so if you were to plastic wrap that, you block the spicules and or the spiracles, I'm sorry, and you would suffocate it. And number 3, an insect goes through a nymph stage in its development. Does it undergo complete or incomplete metamorphosis? The answer, as we just said, is incomplete because it's going through a nymph stage, which is just 3 stages versus the 4 that we find in complete metamorphosis. All right, so like I said, Wednesday, there will be an email. Keep your eye out from me, so you don't have to hop onto the YouTube channel to watch the newest video, but you will watch a video that I send you in your email, and then I have some questions that you need to answer as you watch that video so that I know that you actually watched it. And when you are done those questions, you can email those over to me, and you can check back here on Friday for wrapping up this module. It'll probably be a very short video, as we're going to probably go ahead and do another testing assessment and kind of reassess where we're at before we jump into the next module. So check back here Friday, check your email for Wednesday, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.